The faded serpent tattoo coiled around Tasha Washington's forearm was a constant source of ribbing at Fort Bragg. New recruits smirked, calling it a botched ink job from some dive bar. But when Colonel Marcus Tate caught sight of it during a routine inspection, his face went pale as the North Carolina clay. Without a word, he rolled up his sleeve, revealing an identical tattoo on his bicep. "She's not just a mechanic," he muttered to his aide, voice tight with recognition. "She's ex-Unit Eclipse. Only 6 of us made it out alive." What followed would append everything the Marines at Fort Bragg thought they knew about the quiet woman who kept their vehicles running. The North Carolina sun beat down on the motorpool at Fort Bragg, casting harsh shadows across rows of Humvees and transport trucks lined up like silent sentinels. Tasha Washington, 29, wiped sweat from her brow, leaving a streak of grease as she bent over the engine of a transport truck that had been stalling for days. The steady clink of her wrench against metal mingled with the distant shouts of drill instructors barking orders on the parade ground. She arrived each morning at 0600, punched her time card, and vanished into the maze of vehicles, where she worked with a focus that bordered on supernatural. Her colleagues saw her as reliable, competent, and refreshingly drama-free, a woman who could diagnose engine issues with an almost eerie intuition and never complained about the grueling hours. At Fort Bragg, Tasha had carved out a life of deliberate anonymity. Her routine was predictable: arrive, work, leave. No one suspected that the woman now elbow-deep in engine grease had once operated in shadows, moving through places most couldn't pronounce, executing missions that never appeared in official records. Her reassignment to vehicle maintenance was no accident. It was a calculated exile, a way to keep her skills contained while monitoring her silence. The tattoo on her forearm, a minimalist serpent wrapped around a compass rose, was both a reminder and a burden. Rendered in faded black ink, it looked like a youthful impulse, something a young Marine might get on a wild weekend in Fayetteville. But its true meaning was far more dangerous. Private Jenkins, 3 weeks into his assignment and brimming with the cockiness of surviving boot camp, was the first to comment. He spotted the tattoo as Tasha reached into a Humvee's engine compartment. "Nice ink, Washington," he said with a smirk. "What, lose a bet? Looks like it was done with a marker." Tasha didn't look up, her fingers probing the engine with practiced efficiency. "It's functional," she said flatly, her tone discouraging further talk. But Jenkins, too green to read the room, pressed on. "Functional how? Helps you fix trucks faster? Some kind of voodoo mechanic charm." His jab drew chuckles from the other recruits, their laughter carrying a hint of cruelty common among young Marines testing their place in the pecking order. The mockery drifted across the motorpool, catching the ear of Sergeant Carter, who was conducting his daily equipment checks with the meticulousness that had earned him his stripes. Carter had watched Tasha for 6 months and noticed something the recruits missed: a controlled precision in her movements, a constant awareness of her surroundings that hinted at training far beyond vehicle repair. "Jenkins," he barked, cutting through the laughter, "worry about your own work before you break something we can't afford to replace." The rebuke scattered the crowd, but Carter caught a flicker of gratitude in Tasha's eyes before she returned to the engine, and he tucked the moment away for later. Over months, the tattoo became a running gag among the newer Marines. They speculated about its origins. Some said it was a bad cover-up, others a tribute to a lost love. Tasha endured it with stoic patience, knowing that defending herself, even against harmless jabs, risked drawing attention she couldn't afford. The serpent-and-compass weren't just ink, they were a mark of Unit Eclipse, a covert team that officially never existed. Formed in the gray space between military intelligence branches, Eclipse handled operations too sensitive for conventional forces, too dangerous for regular special ops. They worked without official backing, without recognition, and without a safety net if things went wrong. And things had gone catastrophically wrong. The memory of that final mission haunted Tasha in the pre-dawn hours, when the base was quiet and her mind couldn't hide in the rhythm of work. Lying in her bunk in the enlisted women's quarters, she'd stare at the ceiling as fragments of that night replayed, gunfire echoing off rocky cliffs, the stench of burning fuel, the weight of a wounded teammate as she navigated treacherous terrain. 7 went in, 6 came out, and 2 of those didn't survive the extraction. The official story: a training accident in a remote Nevada desert, was buried in classified files. The survivors were scattered to quiet assignments, their knowledge contained. Tasha's role as a mechanic was a reward on paper, a way to use her technical skills in a safe environment. In reality, it was a velvet cage, a place to keep her useful but harmless, her every move trackable. The routine numbed her, a comfort and a curse. Machines were predictable, unlike the covert world. They didn't lie or betray, didn't leave teammates behind for political reasons. Tasha found solace in the logic of engines, their problems solvable with skill and patience. The vehicles she maintained would carry Marines into open battles, with clear chains of command and government backing, luxuries Unit Eclipse never had. Colonel Marcus Tate arrived at Fort Bragg on a humid Monday, his presence announced by the buzz that followed high-ranking officers. A career Marine with a storied record, he'd requested the post after a Pacific tour that earned him praise from the Joint Chiefs. At 53, Tate was lean, his face weathered by decades in harsh places, his gray eyes sharp with the vigilance of someone who'd seen beyond conventional battlefields. His first week was a whirlwind of formal introductions and informal chats with senior enlisted, gathering unfiltered insights into base operations. He asked pointed questions, listened intently, and formed his own assessments. During his second week, Tate conducted a thorough inspection of base facilities, including the motorpool. Scheduled for 1,400 hours, it gave the maintenance crew time to tidy their stations. Sergeant Carter ensured every tool was in place, every work order documented. Tasha prepared her area with the same quiet professionalism she brought to everything, ready to answer questions about maintenance schedules. She'd done dozens of inspections. The key was competence without spotlight. Tate moved through the motorpool with precision, stopping at each station to examine equipment and ask about procedures. His questions were sharp, revealing a deep understanding of logistics that impressed the crew. When he reached Tasha's station, she was replacing a transmission on a truck damaged in a training exercise. Half under the vehicle, her forearms were exposed, the serpent tattoo stark under the fluorescent lights. Tate froze, his gaze locked on the ink with an intensity that clashed with the inspection's routine. The shift in his demeanor was subtle but unmistakable, a sudden stillness, as if he'd seen a ghost. Sergeant Carter, providing commentary on maintenance protocols, noticed Tate's pause. "That's Washington, sir," he said, assuming the colonel was focused on her work. "One of our best. She's got a knack for engines I've never seen matched." Tate didn't respond immediately. He stepped closer, his movements deliberate. "Washington," he said, voice neutral but heavy, "step out from under there." The request was polite but carried the weight of an order. Tasha set down her tools, slid out, and stood at attention, her eyes briefly meeting Tate's before shifting to the regulations spot above his shoulder. That fleeting glance confirmed what Tate suspected. He'd seen those eyes before, in a classified briefing room for a mission that never officially happened. "At ease," Tate said, though his own posture stayed rigid. His eyes flicked to her tattoo, and the motorpool fell silent, the crew sensing something significant. Carter cleared his throat. "Sir, is there something about Washington's work you'd like to discuss? Her performance is exemplary." Tate's gaze lingered on the tattoo. "What's the significance of that ink, Washington?" he asked, his tone suggesting the answer mattered far more than the question implied. Tasha's heart raced, but her face stayed neutral. She dreaded this moment since arriving at Fort Bragg, the risk of someone recognizing the tattoo's true meaning. "It's personal, sir," she said, truthful but vague. "A reminder of past experiences." Tate studied her, his eyes searching for something beyond her words. The tension in his stance hinted at memories stirred by the tattoo, none of them pleasant. "Past experiences," he repeated, understanding more than he let on. He glanced at Carter and the curious crew, calculating the risks of continuing in front of uncleared personnel. Without warning, Tate removed his uniform jacket, then pulled his undershirt over his head, revealing a torso marked by scars and an identical serpent-and-compass tattoo on his bicep. The crew gaped, stunned by their commander's actions. "She's not just a mechanic," Tate said, eyes on Tasha. "She's ex-Unit Eclipse. Only 6 of us survived." The words hung like smoke, heavy with meaning the others couldn't grasp. Carter's jaw worked silently, the recruits frozen in confusion. Tate dressed, regaining his composure. "Sergeant Carter, I need to speak with Washington privately. The rest of you, back to work. This stays in the motorpool." "That's an order." Carter nodded, bewildered but obedient. "Yes, sir." "You heard him, move." The crew dispersed, casting curious glances as Tasha and Tate left for Building 19, a secure facility for classified briefings. Inside a windowless conference room, swept for surveillance, Tate spoke. "I thought you were dead." Reports listed 5 survivors. Tasha nodded. "Officially I am." Tasha Washington died in those mountains with Carter and Lee. "They reassigned me here to keep me contained." Tate revealed his role, monitoring ex-Unit Eclipse members. Someone was hunting them, probing their covers with sophisticated intel. "We've intercepted chatter," he said. "Operational teams are targeting Eclipse survivors." Tasha's pulse quickened. "Who?" "Unknown. Could be foreign agents, private groups, or our own. They know our methods." Authorization for proactive measures was hours away. Tate handed her a sealed envelope of classified plans. Opening it, Tasha felt her old instincts resurface. The mechanic was gone, the operative was back. Over hours in a secure basement facility, they reviewed intelligence, detailed profiles of Eclipse survivors, their routines and capabilities. The threat was coordinated, suggesting significant resources. Tate received confirmation. Hostile teams were moving against survivors. Authorization reactivated Unit Eclipse. Tasha traced her tattoo, a symbol of a life she couldn't escape. As they planned a response, she embraced her true identity, ready to face the danger head-on, knowing the serpent and compass marked a cycle of duty that would always pull her back.